Hi guys, welcome back to episode 3. At the front of the car this time. Still waiting on the roll cage bender to turn up and the roll cage metal. So I thought I'd get the front subframe out and make sort of an instructional video of sorts on how to get an MG TF front subframe into a Metro. It's quite a common conversion. A lot of guys do it to put the VVC engines in, or even the turbo engines sometimes. So I thought I'd start by pretty much getting the subframe out. I've disconnected everything. It helped that the engine was already out of the car. So I've got about 6 bolts left to undo, which are the two 13mm at the front here and the two 13s here, and then there's 4 17s each side at the back, which go up into the rear or front of the footwell, but they obviously hold the rear of the subframe. So I'll get those out now, we'll drop the subframe out, and then we'll put the MGTF subframe in and see what it's going to need to get it up into position and get it all bolted up. That was a good start. And it rolls right under the car. Try not to do that again. So that's all the bolts out of the subframe. We're going to put the jack underneath the back and support it, get the 2 back bolts out, and we'll come back to the front and get the front bolts out and drop it out. So I left the wheels on, thinking it'll easily roll out under the car, and it doesn't. I didn't jack the car up high enough. I forgot to say beforehand, I did put stands under the car, they're under front and rear, just to be on the safe side. I know it's only a light car, but I still don't want it coming down on my head. So I'm going to have to whip the wheels off and then I can pull the subframe out. So the MGTF subframe's in place. I'm going to need to take these strengthener rails off because they're going to foul on the chassis rails that run down here, and then we can lift it up and roughly gauge what we've got to do to get it in. These holes will take the original mounts that go into the bottom of the chassis rails at the front, but they are a lot wider on the MGTF front subframe than they are on the original Metro subframe. Because I'm going to be building the cage into the car, I'll be bringing the main tubes down So now that we've got that sorted, jack under the back of the subframe, we'll jack that up into position. The rear mounts are in the same position as they are on the original subframe from the Metro, so that's going to be fairly easy. I can get it up in there, bolt it up, it'll be supported enough, and then we'll see how we're going to get around holding the front for the time being until I can get the cage in and get it connected to the mounts I'm going to fit on here. So, issues. These turrets are going to hit these panels, so we're going to have to cut these out. The rear mounts actually sit about 3 inches lower than the original mounts on the original subframe. So I'm going to have to move them up. So I've got to drop the subframe back down, cut these panels out, cut the brackets off there, move them up, and then we can go ahead and try it back up. One other thing I noticed is the steering rack isn't going through the same hole. So I'm going to have to clearance the hole a little bit, probably just cut a little bit out of the side of the hole for now, because I'll be changing all this in the future anyway. I'll probably be reinforcing the bulkhead and stuff. So we'll get on and get that done. Claimed its first victim. So there's a bracket on the back of the subframe here that I need to cut off. So safety goggles time rather than safety squint. I'll cut this off both sides. So that's those bits cut out. I can put these back in the place that I want them now. I'll be renewing all these bolts anyway. The subframe is going to have to come back out still to do the cage. So I'm just going to leave these to have a little bit of wiggle room so I can rotate them back and forth and get them level with the floor. So, we can cut these out now. Right, so that's the two corners cut out. So we can lift it back up now, hopefully get all 4 bolts in, and those turrets will sit in the right place. So drop it back down again. Some So, these brackets are fouling on the chassis, and I'm going to have to chop them off as well. Third time or fourth time, I don't know, lost count. Let's try it again. And it's bolted in, finally. These panels have got to be cut out as well, so I'm just going to bend them up for now. It's around about 9:30, I think. I can't really make much more noise. Neighbours. It is in. Loose. Very loose. But it's good enough for now. I'm going to be cutting most of this out. I'll probably drill this panel out because it's so good. I didn't want to just go bending it out of the way. Someone's probably going to be able to use it, so I'll drill the spot welds out and take that off as one unit so it can be reused. Right, let's put some wheels on it now. So, as it turns out, this didn't turn into an instructional video really. It was just me messing around, cutting things out of a Metro to try and get an MGTF subframe in it. It's in loose, it's in enough for me to mock up where the brackets need to go to the roll cage when the roll cage bender and the roll cage tubing turns up. The normal conversion is a rear subframe out of an MGTF in the front of a Metro. It's a lot easier, the subframe's a lot closer to what the original Metro subframe is. The only thing you've got to do is like change all the wishbones and stuff, because obviously the rear doesn't have a steering rack, so you need to swap that over. The MGTF wishbones are better than the original Metro setup. The reason I've gone for an MGTF front subframe is because it's got coilovers, disc brakes standard. I'll be upgrading them and putting probably 320mm discs on anyway. But the coilovers are the main thing. The original Metros had hydroelastic suspension, which is basically the same sort of system that 2 CV Citroens had, which is a rubber trumpet, for want of a better word, that was filled with oil, pressurised with oil, and that absorbed a lot more of the bumps in the road. So coilovers stiffer for one, they can handle a bit more load, you can change the spring rate, you can do a lot more with a coilover than you can with a hydraulic sphere. So that makes life a bit easier there. again, I'll probably be upgrading them to something that can handle the weight and the power and everything. These parts here that I've bent up, I'm going to cut them out, trim them down, probably follow the line of the chassis rail, and then when the roll cage goes in I can follow that. That'll sort the front end out, hopefully. This MGTF subframe also allows me to get the front drivetrain in and gives me something pretty sturdy to weld mounts to, brackets, all that sort of good stuff that's going to be able to handle power, rather than just a couple of flimsy bits in there attached to the floor somehow, or the front chassis rails or the front panel. It's just easier to make it part of the subframe. Makes servicing and replacing stuff easier in future as well, because I can just drop the whole assembly out, have it rolling on the floor, and then put it back in. So that about ties it up for this one. Hopefully the roll cage tubing and the roll cage bender will turn up soon. I can get on with that. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see more mediocre content of a Metro being turned into a 6R4 replica. Replica?